Well, we're finally back. Fuck, where do I begin? So Sua broke us, apparently. That is, he broke us by making us experience what all of the victims of the new gen cases went through. That is unbelievably messed up. And we also got to learn a little bit more about the relationship between Sua and Hazuki. Not that I really care, they were just, let's be perfectly honest, they're mentally fucked up people. Apparently they were raised by the cult, if I'm reading things correctly, raised by the cult, so they literally had no chances of living a normal life. They could pretend to be normal with their everyday jobs that they were trying to use as a cover, but let's be honest, they had no hopes of having any sort of normal life. Which is a sad state of affairs, considering that's usually how most people in a cult end up, especially those that are raised by it. They're just indoctrinated by these horrific ideas. Hell, we see some of that stuff in this now day and age, which is kind of a shame. Stuff like that should have been taken care of, but sadly, I don't know. It is a crying shame. I know they're fictional. I realize that it's a visual novel. They're fictional. They aren't real. But whenever fiction reaches this sense of realism, like there are some people that probably look at this and they're like, "Nah, this is just cartoonishly evil and shit like that." No, the sad part is this is a reality. This is a dark look into the effects of a cult mindset and what it does to people. It robs them the chances of having a normal, happy, fulfilling life and turns them nothing more into pawns. Because usually cult leaders, I don't really consider them people because they're just monsters. Most cult leaders are just monsters. That or pathetically weak. So the only thing I can really feel for Hazuki and Sua is I feel sorry that they never had a chance. Unfortunately, we're broke.
Kozapi shaky shakes her head around. Her eyes went everywhere. Lots of drool, dribbly drips, dribble. Her face looked super stupid. Looked funny, and she was also wearing a thingy on her head. It had lots of cords coming out of it, like a toy. Like a super duper Power Rangers toy set or something.
楽しいことでもあったのですか西条匠
Is there something Omsig? Omsig? What the fuck? What the fuck kind of word? Wait, hold on. Is that supposed to be like an anagram? Omsig. Omsig. What the hell does that mean? It probably means nothing the more I'm looking at it, but I don't know.
An old guy I'd never seen before. Who?
なるほど無意識に折原梢と妄想をシンクロさせているのですか随分と物好きですね
Oh, never mind. I figured it out. So you've unconsciously synchronized with Orihara Kozue. Kozue's, delusion. Basically, okay, so here's how the word works. The first and last letters are correct, while the rest of the other words, with the rest of the letters in the word jumbled up. It's actually there's like this popular, thing that exists. It's like a paragraph or something like that, where the entire thing is written in this sort of format. And though there are some people that are capable, because they're recognizing the first and last letter, their brain can automatically fix what the word is. So, example. So you've unconsciously synchronized with Orihara Kozue's delusion. You're quite the curious specimen, aren't you? Oh, that means that the previous word must have been, amusing. Hold on a minute. Let me pull up the backlog. Is there something? Yes, it's amusing. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. Is it because our brains broke?
そんなに焦らずとも彼女の次は君にたっぷりとあの拷問を受けさせてあげますよ。
There's no need to show such fluster. I'll make sure to treat you to plenty of torture after her.
Who's next? Me? I didn't want that. Who's next? Me? No, I didn't want that. Who's next? Me? No, I didn't want that. I didn't want any suffering. I didn't want any pain.
タク、あなたなら止められる。今なら止められる。
Oh, I think that's Remy trying to talk to us right now.
あなたなら。
My wrists should have been tied behind my back. But suddenly, as if it had a will of its own, the cord loosened and fell to the floor. Tied up and lying on the ground, Remy turned just her gaze to me. Her eyes pleaded with me. A gigantic device sat in the center of the dome-shaped room, giving off an eerie hum. That is Noah 2. Destroy it. Remy's eyes asked this of me. A tall, intellectual-looking man, Norose, had his back turned to me, and he was watching Kozupi's torture with an earnest look on his face. He hadn't noticed me moving. There was no one else around, not even Sua. I could do it now. I was the only one who could. But I was scared. What if Norose caught me? What if I failed? When I thought these things, my body began to tremble. There was something seriously wrong with this game, forcing the fate of the world onto someone like me. But I had to do it. That realization and resolve came to me with surprising ease. Maybe I'd grown stronger. Yeah, that was it. I was strong. I was super strong now. I stood up slowly. Norose still hadn't noticed. For a final boss, he was a total dumbass. Was it that fun watching Kozupi suffering? Raw disgust flowed through me. I gritted my teeth. Come forth, D-Sword. Ripples appeared in the open air and a blue light burst forth. I grasped it. I felt it. Neither cold nor hot, neither hard nor soft. I drew it from the Dirac Sea, and a long grand sword settled in my hand.
Nani?
He finally noticed me, but it was too late. I real-booted my D-Sword. I sent particles flying into everyone's dead spots. I'd done it completely unconsciously. The method that I'd used, or how it had worked, didn't matter to me. I just had a delusion and it come to be. I gripped the hilt of my D-Sword with both hands. Its glow transformed from blue to red.
心殺されたはず。
Apparently it wasn't. Norose stared at me in disbelief. He was shrinking back. Come on, pull out your weapon. I know you've got it. I'd won. I grinned from ear to ear, raised my sword, and formed a delusion. This was a sword of light. It possessed incredible power, power to cut through the very air itself. If I called forth all its power and swung the blade, it could reduce anything on this earth to rubble.
くらえこれが
I couldn't come up with a name for my special attack right on the spot, so I just gave up on shouting something out. Besides, this wasn't some shonen manga.
あ
I took the power I'd stored in my D-Sword through my delusions and unleashed it all toward Noah 2. How much you want to bet it hit Kozupi? Because he was in a delusion this entire time. What? Two months later?
The winter sky was barely blue, but in exchange, unlike the summer sky, it was crisp, cool, and carried an almost translucent aura. It was morning. A few minutes ago, my eyes had opened to the sound of my alarm clock, and now, as I brushed my teeth, my gaze shifted up toward the sky.
It had been 2 months since that insanity. Shibuya was still in the midst of its reconstruction efforts. Ever since the new year had first kicked off, little by little, Shibuya had slowly been returning to its noisy, gaudy-ass self. How much you want to bet this literally isn't a delusion that's going on right now? Like, his mind was literally so unbelievably broken that, this is all just a defense mechanism for his head, and, like, horrific torture is happening right now. A voice called my name. When I turned around, I saw Rimi making her way up the stairs. I hadn't seen her in her school uniform since that day. Rimi gave me a big smile and took a salute-like pose.
ビシおはよう。朝ごはん急いで作るね。
Pardon? Rimi was holding a bag from the convenience store. Inside were some eggs, milk, and white bread. Standing in front of the sink, she cheerfully started making preparations. For the past 2 months, Rimi had made it a point to come to my base pretty much every morning to cook me breakfast. Apparently, she hadn't done much cooking before she'd met me, so this doubled as practice for her. I wanted to tell her not to use me as her guinea pig, but just being able to eat a girl's home cooking at all made me incredibly happy. So I just bit my tongue and put up with it.
今日から学校再開だね。
Ever since the earthquake, Sume Academy had been closed down, but it was finally reopening today. I plan to use this opportunity to leave behind my semi-shut-in lifestyle, starting by seriously attending school. Huh?
タクトまた学校に通えるなんて嬉しいな。
What the? Susie? As she said that, Rimi cracked open an egg. Oh my god, is the floor clean? Dude, did you finally clean up your damn room? I mean, you still have your figures, but everything looks... Maybe I'm imagining things, but it looks more organized. I can see your floor. As one would expect, it wasn't exactly feasible to eat outside right in the middle of winter. You'd freeze your ass off. To avoid that, Rimi carried inside the 2 servings of toast and scrambled eggs she'd made for us, and set them down on the small table beside each other. And once her hands are free, the two of us sat down next to each other on the sofa.
じゃあいただきます。
Itadakimasu?
いただきます。
There it is. After putting my hands together, I reached for the butter sitting at the edge of the table. However, Rimi had done the same thing at almost the same time, and our fingertips brushed up against each other atop the container of butter. This has got to be a delusion. This has got to be a freaking delusion. What a rom-com-ass plot point. Smiling wryly at that in my head, my eyes soon met those with Rimi, who was sitting extremely close to me. And my heart began to pound. Rimi didn't take her eyes off of me, nor did she pull back her hand. Both of us had gone rigid, staring at each other as our fingers touched. This is insane. As you said, what rom-com ass plot.
たく
Rimi entwined her fingers with my own. Her eyes softly closed, and then she ever so slightly lifted her face. Naturally, I held Rimi's hand in return. I slowly neared her lips.
朝から何イチャついてんの？
Blech!
あ
Flustered, I jumped away from Rimi. Nanami! When I looked at my door, I saw Nanami standing there. I had no idea when she'd shown up. All I knew was that her arms were uncrossed and she had a pretty exasperated look on her face.
ななちゃん、おはよ
You just had to show up, didn't you?
ナナミ、心臓に悪いことするなよ。
う。ポニーとリミさんってほんと仲いいね。焼けちゃうな。
No.
ねえねえ、実際のところどこまで行ったの？
Not really any of your business.
どこまでって？
Rimi, for the love of God, do not entertain her.
またまたとぼけてないで教えてよ、リミさん。
Seemed like Nanami had selected Rimi as her next target.
Barging into my room, she pulled aside my computer chair and sat down in front of Rimi.
キスは当然したとして、その先は
Nanami! No! You do not do that! Behave! Or else I'll throw you in the washer. I don't know, you'll probably fit in the washer, but I'm just... You're gonna be thrown in the washer, damn it!
ちょっとからかわないでよ。いいじゃん、教えて。教えない。
Good.
じゃあ鬼、教えてよ。どこまで行ったか。
No!
I'm not telling you. Besides, we haven't even kissed yet. Why'd you have to remind me? God, I'm such an idiot. I've had so many chances before now. I hate myself. At this rate, it felt like I'd never lose my V...
That doesn't matter!
My V card. Starting to get depressed at how much of a loser I was. I gulped down some milk.
ミミさんがのんびりしてるなら、ナナが鬼を奪っちゃうかな。
Okay, this is the part where we kick you out. Practically a gallon of milk spurted from my mouth.
鬼、汚な。
Yeah, what you said was nasty!
お前
冗談だよ。本気にされても困っちゃうってば。
Could we please stop trying to give me a heart attack?
But it was all a doodle. Oh, I guess not. I guess it's okay. I guess it's still going. I don't trust it. I don't trust it for one bit. I don't trust anything.
Side by side, the three of us walked to school together. Rimi was humming that Phantasm song again. Passing through the center of Shoto Park, we took my usual shortcut. You could still see a few traces of the earthquake around the park. For example, part of the stone wall circling the pond was still broken. Even then, though, it was still way better off than the rest of Shibuya, especially when compared to the sad state of the center of it.
おはようございます。
Yua! Yua was sitting on the bench. Turning toward us, she put on a gentle smile and bowed her head.
西条くん、昨日はとても楽しかったです。
What did we do yesterday?
昨日？
ユアと一緒に秋葉原まで買い物に行ったんだ。
Oh! Wow!
あ、わかった。お人形さんでしょう。
Let them enjoy their damn hobby.
フィギュアと言えよ。
I may not be one of those. Well, actually, I was about to make I may not be one of those people, and then I remembered I have two unassembled Gundam Gunpla sets right over there that I gotta do: the Zaku unit and the Destiny Gundam. I still have to put that shit together. Actually, first things first, I gotta get a shelf to display them. But I just realized I let my Gundam nerd show. I'm just going to shut up about that right now. Well, I mean, it was true that we'd gone to buy figures.
新しいセイラちゃん。早速部屋に飾りました。私も行きたかったな。
Well, I guess we'll have to go next time then.
リミってフィギュアに興味あるの？
When I asked that, Rimi gave a slightly sheepish smile. Smile.
っていうか、タクの好きなもの、私も好きになりたいし。わあ、大胆発言。だったら今度一緒に買いに行きましょう。
Yeah.
本当？ありがとうございます。
This is starting to turn into like, this feels like a generic rom-com ass plot. You and Rimi had really hit it off.
See, this is like part of the reason why I don't go toward visual novels that have this sort of harem sort of thing. I'm not, well, okay, not a harem, but you know, you get what I'm going for. I don't really like those visual novels. I'll admit, the horror element and mystery element is why I even drifted toward Chaos Head in the first place.
Yua's and Nanami's classes were both in different buildings, so we said our goodbyes at the school entrance. As I changed into my indoor shoes, someone came up from behind me and blew into my ear.
It's a Masumi-kun, isn't it?
I shuddered, goosebumps springing up all over me, jumped away and spun around. Never mind, it was Ayase, okay? Okay. There stood Ayase, wearing a narrow smile.
おはよう匠
Morning?
あ、おはよ
おはようあやちゃんあやちゃん
Looks like you just got yourself a nickname. Ayase tilted her head when she heard Rimi call her that.
初めてよそんな呼び方をされたのは悪くないわ
Good.
でしょファンタズムのライブがあるのあさって
Over Morrow? That's an interesting way of saying either tomorrow or over tomorrow. I would... You know what, maybe I really shouldn't question the way that Ayase says things.
She abruptly changed the subject. Unsurprisingly, Ayase was as hard to get a read on as ever.
よかったら来て
う。僕に言ってるの。
匠に言ってるのよ
Can Rimi come?
それとリミ
There we go.
本当絶対行くね
Phantasm had broken up a while back, but I'd heard that they'd had a sudden revival after the new year started up. I didn't know where the change of heart had come from, but what I did know was that I wanted to hear more of Ayase singing.
でも匠は渡さないわ
Ah, there it is.
I didn't really know what was up with the butt, but Ayase reached out and softly caressed my cheek as if she was showing Rimi her place. What the fuck?
じゃあね匠
With a bewitching smile, she climbed the stairs in front of us. In a daze, I watched her go without the faintest clue of what had just happened.
たく鼻の下伸びてる
Ah, shit.
え？あ、
I quickly shot a hand up to my mouth.
冗談
When we reached the outside of our classroom...
匠さん
Wait, Kozaway?
Shit, girl, you don't even know... Wait a minute. Hold on. If we're not gonna... If we are not going to address what the fuck happened to you, like, I'm sorry, we need to...
How are you? 2 months. 2 months of recovery and you're doing okay after apparently a torture session? Kozapi came racing down the hallway, her smile stretching from ear to ear. But before she could make it to us, she suddenly crashed into a boy coming out of the classroom and landed flat on her butt. Her eyes swimming with tears, she apologized to the boy, then finally managed to get over to us.
おはようさんさんなの
And she's talking out loud instead of talking through the brain.
怪我はない廊下を走っちゃダメだよコズピはにゃ
Don't make that noise. Kozapi started fidgeting. She then looked up at me from below.
たくみさんに早く教えたかったのら
What?
教えるって何を？
Whose eyes are those eyes?
ほんとね
What? Kozapi pointed in the direction she had just come running from.
Oh my god, Senna. How did you recover?
When I looked closer, I saw Senna standing there, leaning against the wall. Her arms were crossed, and she had a fairly sullen expression plastered on her face.
セナさん退院したんだ
Oh, this is being addressed? She's out of the hospital? Senna had been hospitalized over the past 2 months. Sua's psychological attack had put her out of commission for a long time. Speaking of which, where's Sua? Senna raised her head, then slowly began making her way toward us. She was just as scary as ever. She always carried a certain aura, one that gave off the impression that she would suddenly slap you, even if you hadn't done anything wrong. I'd gone to visit Senna in the hospital twice a week, but no matter how many times I'd tried to make a conversation, she'd never said so much as a single word. The awkwardness had been torture. Could it be that she just hated me that much? I didn't really know how to handle her. A fierce tension hung in the air between us. Then again, it would have been more accurate to say that only I was freaked out. She was fine.
というわけで今日は学校が終わったら退院のお祝いをしよう。
Kozapi was the only one showing any sort of enthusiasm. Well, I mean, a party with this kind of atmosphere would be pretty shitty.
おい、西条。
What? That was when Senna finally opened her mouth. I shrank back, refusing to meet her eyes.
これを。
Senna held something out to me. It was a small stick with the word win written on it.
あ、ガルガリ君の当たり棒なのや。
Cool? Bewildered, I accepted it. Senna quickly looked the other way.
お前に言いたいことがある。
Don't.
なんでしょ
Was it just my imagination, or had Senna's cheeks turned pink? No, she's probably gonna say something simple like thank you or something.
う。お前のことが好きだ。
Never mind. Also new sprite.
え
Huh? Even they're dumbstruck, like, what?
おぴー
Never mind, I guess she's fine. Her sudden confession left not just me, but Rimi and Kozapi all speechless. For a moment, I thought she was just teasing me, but Senna wasn't the type of character to make those kinds of jokes. Which meant... Are you serious?
何度もお見舞いに来てくれて嬉しかったんだ。
This feels weird seeing you like this. I am not used to this side of this chick. Ah, there we
言
go.
わせるな、このバカが。
And Tsundere. I see. She'd gone all dere, then straight back to Tsun mode all of a sudden on her own. Wait, go back a little. This is way too all too sudden. Way too sudden. Way behind schedule, Rimi let out a cry in surprise. Kozapi, likely still processing, had her eyes open wide. Put a fucking Windows dial-up noise behind friggin' Kozapi.
なんだ先ほど異論があるのか。張りまくりだよ。そんなとにかくダメだって。
What kind of noises are you making? Rimi and Kozapi were utterly baffled, but the most bewildered one of all was me. I would have never expected something so insane. Without any idea of how in the hell I was supposed to react, I gazed up at the clear sky sitting outside the window. Somehow, even though the semester had only just started, it was already quite the eventful day. I wonder, will every day be like this from now on? Will these fun, peaceful times go on forever? I sure hope so. I wished for it from the bottom of my heart. Suddenly, I saw the reflection of my face in the window. And the reflection I saw wasn't me, because it was covered in wrinkles. Color and light disappeared. I was hugging my knees close to me in a space dyed pitch black. In front of my eyes was the only light source around. It was like a monitor. It was like a window. It was like a picture frame. Inside it Rimi, Senna, and Kozapi were chatting happily about something, but I couldn't hear their voices. I stared at it. My emotions were completely inactive. Or maybe my heart was simply dead. I then realized I'd been watching my own delusions. A 2D world where I had escaped into. A perfect illusion. How long had it all been a delusion?
最初からですよ。
From the very beginning? I looked behind me where Norose stood tall, but with how dark it was I could only see his feet.
諏訪君に心を殺されたではありませんか。
Called it. So, ever since he'd done that, I'd been in a delusion the entire time.
君のコードサンプルは採取できました。もう用済みですから、いつでも塵に帰ってもらって結構です。
ああ。
I felt nothing. My heart was dead after all. So I shouldn't have felt anything. And yet a single tear trickled down my cheek. In the end, I'd gone right back to being a loser. I'd run away from the painful reality.
最後に幸せな夢を見られてよかったですね。
Even to the very end, I had been a completely worthless human being. I'm sorry, Rimi. I apologized, but I didn't really understand why I had to anymore. I didn't feel any guilt. And so I decided to return to my delusion from earlier. Hopefully someone would kill me one of these days. So until then, I wanted to fully immerse myself in the happiness that came from the world I'd escaped to. When had the rain begun to fall? Or perhaps this rain had been brought into the world by Noah too. A gaze ran down from the sky. Rained down from the sky. The stare pierced through the thick, pitch-black rain clouds and poured down on me like rain. It's too late for him now. I whispered in my heart to the owner of the gaze. I didn't feel the chill of the rain. Instead, the droplets on my cheeks felt warm to me. It was the first time I'd ever thought of rain as being warm. Perhaps it was the fault of the spine-chilling cold enveloping the dome where Noah 2 was. Reflected in my eyes was a ruined city. Reflected in my eyes was despair. Reflected in my eyes was death. Reflected in my eyes was nothingness. Not a soul was here. Not a soul was moving. Not a soul was left alive. The only thing I could hear was the sound of the rain continuing to pour. The ark had already been set into motion. We had been unable to stop it, and now the future held nothing but despair. At this rate, everything, both the living and the dead, would all be gently embraced and washed away. I heard him whisper all of this inside his heart. His heart. It's so beautiful. I walked to the figure lying limp in the rubble. It was my fault he had ended up like this. If I had done better, he wouldn't have gotten involved at all. Feelings of guilt tortured me. I blamed myself. Forgive me. I'll give you peace now. How he had been born was far too sad. How he was going to die was far too sad. A heart so timid, so fragile. It was like it was made of glass. Glass so pure it had shattered its owner to pieces. At the very least, I didn't want him to suffer in the end. Lying on the ground, he looked up at me with vacant eyes. I pushed aside my emotions. Though I was looking at him, I tried to distance myself in an attempt to stave off my tears. If you and I were the only ones left in the world, If we stared into each other's eyes like this for all eternity, would my world be reduced to what's reflected in your eyes? Would your world be reduced to what's reflected in my eyes? The only thing reflected in my eyes was him. The only thing reflected in his eyes was me. When I thought of it that way, the world immediately seemed so much smaller. At least in the time you have left, I will become your world. Whether the world is painful, whether the world is agonizing, or whether the world is sorrowful, I'll make it so you no longer have to see it anymore. Gathering my resolve, I let out a whisper. Lowering my head, I spread my arms wide. Almost as if I was preparing to take off, to soar above the rain clouds. As if I was trying to catch all the falling rain.
あなたを見つめる妄想
So we're now seeing this ending through her perspective.
殺してあげる
Feathers of light danced about. They served as a gift handed down from the sky, a gift for his funeral. I slowly knelt to the ground right before his collapsed body. I'll cry if I see your eyes. I'm sorry. I can't look at them. I softly embraced his head in my arms. His body was devoid of all strength, as if he was fully prepared for death.
辛いよねごめんごめんね今楽にしてあげるからね
His demeanor told me that I wasn't just doing this for my own sake. He has a very peaceful smile on his face. But that smile was so sad. Even though I'd held it in all this time, tears began to well up. I'd held them back because I didn't ever want him to see those tears. He'd finally found peace, and I didn't want to worry him any further. I kissed him on the lips. They were cold, desiccated, and laden with seemingly endless sorrow, and yet when I kissed him, his trembling ceased. I was overjoyed to know that my warmth was of some use to him. If I drew back from his lips, he would see my teary face. If I drew back from his lips, I would want to kiss him again. If I drew back from his lips, I would be struck with such selfish feelings I wouldn't be able to kill him anymore. My lips still enveloping his, I sank my D-sword into his chest. The sensation of it, tearing through his skin, boring into his flesh, weaving through his bones, and slowly sinking through to the center of his body. It all passed through the sword and into my hands. I'm so sorry. You can sleep for as long as you want to now. Goodbye. Was the sky blurring because of the rain? Because of my tears? His body was enveloped by countless particles of light and he slowly began to disappear. As I held him in my arms, I reached my hand toward the sky. Somebody, please tell me.
Just where could that sky of ours have gone? So, Crying Sky reached ending B. The Crying Sky ending. Okay. So in this ending, the bad guy wins. But the ending looks the same. By that, I mean, in the first ending, Takumi still ends up, like, laying on the ground. The world is in ruins, and Rimi still comes to put him out of his misery. Somehow. This time, the bad guy wins. But the result is the same. Like, is there an actual correlation to this? Or is there some sort of implication that, like, the existence of Takumi, no matter what, it seems like the world is going to end. Whether Noah is destroyed or not. Unless I'm reading this wrong, it's like there's some other event that's out of Norose's control is going to happen. Also, happy I called the discrepancy that, yeah, that was just clearly a delusion as a sort of self-defense mechanism, because Norose didn't even attempt to summon his D-sword in defense of himself. So, I don't know. I will say what is different, though, is that we got to see, like, even though it was the same outcome, we got to see it through Rimi's perspective. So, that raises the question. If in the first one we destroyed Noah, and this time we didn't destroy Noah, the world still ends up the way it is. What causes the world to end up in that state? It has something to do, I think, with Takumi and his delusional existence. I don't know. Okay. Well, that, we cleared that ending, I guess. Well, let me look at my guide, everybody. So, we cleared the Crying Sky ending. It looks like the next ending is going to officially be the Nanami route. And it looks like there's only... Okay, so... Positive delusion is nothing but cola, then no, yes, yes. A Nanami-related intermission will appear during the story. Skidmo will disengage during these scenes. Be sure to read them for additional context. The game will branch into the route in Chapter 6. Okay. Okay. So I have to follow that one. Okay, it looks like the good news is a majority of these ways to get into the routes is specifically only 2 things. Okay, that's beneficial. Alright, that is good. Alright, now I know what to do next time. Well, everybody, that's where I'm going to stop it for right now, I guess. I feel like that's probably a good way to end this with what is essentially another downer ending. I'm wondering if we're ever going to get ourselves an actual happier ending. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I guess I may as well just keep going. I guess we'll start the Nanami route next. Hopefully it's not bad.